Welcome back to Hippie Bliss Travel. Today we're wrapping up our weekend in Florence, Oregon. Now, last week we rode the a dune buggy on the sand dunes, and today, well, we're going to hike the sand dunes. We stopped at this location. It's the Dunes Day Use area there on the map. We stopped several times when we've been traveling up and down Oregon, and we always said, one of these times we're going to actually hike them. So today is our day. And as you saw in the opening credit there, that it was very foggy in the morning, but after a couple hours, the sun cleared, and off we were on our adventure. You did get a spectacular view of the overlook of the dunes before we headed up, or headed down, I guess. Up and around, I guess, is how we're heading here. And this is the same sand dunes that we did the dune buggy ride on. I think we're just farther south of where the dune buggy was.
Stay on wet sand. Prohibited. Okay. So yeah, let's see. We are here. We're gonna come here.
Well, we can make that decision at some point whether we're gonna decide when we get to here
Yeah.
whether we want to go this way. Let's see what kind of fucking downhill
Oh, okay.
power climb that is versus this way.
Because we're still coming
'Cause
back up
is,
through here.
Well, this is going to be longer. Because right, we're still going to come back this little stretch.
This stretch here. Okay.
So we looked at the map. We had a game plan. I think maybe it was like 3 miles total round trip, even though it looked longer on the map. I think one direction was like 1.3 miles, and then the other one was just over around a mile and a half. So we're at the top of the sand dunes, and there were some trails that went off to the left. We weren't sure if we were supposed to go down those first, but you got to go down the sand dune, you know. Yeah, you have to do it. And so basically, we discovered these orange or wooden poles or that you see off to the left on us a lot. Those are your markers. So if you get lost, you just look for one of those. They looked pretty old. You have one of these wooden poles with the little blue stripe there. They look pretty old, but hey, coming up, they saved our butts. And I'm kind of bummed. I thought the camera would. I should have tilted it forward a little bit. I had one of those little chest things on where it was hooked, and showed how steep it was going down. But it was super soft sand. So when you took a step on the downhill part, you stepped down and then your foot slid, another 6 inches. And then the next one, you put your foot down and your foot slid another 5, 6 inches. So going down, it was great. But when we came back up part of the hill, the same problem. You put your foot down and your foot would slide back 5 or 6 inches. Sand, you can see my husband just dropping right in front of us here. It was super soft sand. It was a lot of fun walking down the hill at least. And there's, yeah, some trees, and then the Pacific Ocean is in front of us there. And once we got to the bottom of it, it kind of flattened out, and then the walk was relatively easy. Most of it, unless you're going uphill, that this was a pretty relatively easy walk. Beautiful warm day. Yeah, there's the hill we just came down. And we were wondering if we had to go back up it, but we noticed then when you were looking at it, off to the left there was like another trail. So when we came back, we went up that way, so we didn't have to walk up that hill again. Yeah, there's just a still picture of that hill we came down. Now we were getting to the point where we could go straight. There's a path, a trail that would take you to the ocean. And that was, I think the mile and 1.3 mile trail, I think. But coming up here, there was another a post stick there, and this was the trail that runs parallel to the Pacific Ocean. And so you're heading south. So we decided we're going to do the full loop, and is what we decided. So this was the turn on the left to follow the loop, and this was I think like a mile and a half to the ocean. So we started off on the trail. Yeah, and you see this grass here. That was from the last video when we were doing the dune buggy ride. We learned this is the invasive grass that was overtaking the sand dunes. Here's our pole again that we were looking for. Um, but yeah, this is so we kind of some of the times we'd step out, make sure we stepped on the grass because that seems to be trampling it down. Seems to be the only way to help get rid of this grass. They said they tried burning it, cutting it back. It just keeps growing. And they said in about 100 years, if they don't get this under control, it'll overtake all the sand dunes. And now this is we're getting to the point we were following a trail, but then there was a multiple trail, so you weren't quite sure. So off in the distance, right by that bush, you see like the wooden pole. So okay, that was the wooden pole. And first we thought, man, there's a lot of erosion because that pole's way up high by itself. And then we got thinking, well, maybe they purposely stuck it up high so people could see it. And then as we come around the corner, you really had to start looking, okay, where's the next pole? So you kind of figuring out which trail to follow, how, on a path, where to go. Because you could easily get lost. If these sticks weren't out here, we would be like, have really no idea exactly where to go. We could kind of figure it out. But there's a lot more trails and a lot more footprints than what's just in front of us. So you can't just say, well, I'm going to follow these footprints because they may not be the trail you wanted. And that turns out to be true because we saw this trail. We're like, oh, off to the right there a little bit up on the hill. We're like, oh, we must go up around this hill and then we'll follow this trail off to the right. Well, then as we started walking and we got closer to the hill, the trail that we were wanted to follow was actually off to the left. So you just got to be careful and use some common sense out here, and kind of okay, if we're totally lost, we can turn around and we understand the trail we came from. Again, we got one of these poles coming up on the left here, up on the top, and again the same thing. Man, look at all that erosion, but maybe they put it up there so we could see it coming. And then as we came around the corner, this is when we thought we'd start heading to the right, and then we noticed the pole up on the left, up on the hill, coming up. So it was, interesting. We learned a lot this day, and it's still the sand is super soft like it was coming down the hill. I think I had Tevas on, but it was nice and warm sand. My feet weren't cold or anything. And this was, I think, the Tuesday after Labor Day, yeah, because we left Monday and Tuesday, then we came back on Wednesday morning. Yeah, and this is where we discovered that, yeah, this is the trail we wanted to follow is going to be the left because we could see a pole way up on the hill. And the trail we had seen earlier a little bit ago that went off to the right was not the trail we wanted. Yeah, where it's back in the sand duny area that's surrounded by all those trees. That's back kind of where we started, to give you an idea. Uh, and we knew we were on the right trail when we got to the creek up here. If I'm pronouncing it right, it's the Takanich Creek because it had a creek running along the map up at the visitor center or the parking area. So it made us feel better. Okay, okay, we're on the right direction. We made it out to the ocean. The little trail is steep, and then I I kind of ended up having to sit down and kind of scoot down on my bottom. But yeah, we made it. Then we're going to head north on the beach.
I turned off the thing. My video turned off a while ago. I don't know how long it's been off.
I was just about to take a photo.
And I'm going to swap out batteries. I think that may have...
Yeah, the little bird that flew off was a vulture. It's the first time I've ever seen one in public, or not in a zoo, I guess. I don't want to say in public, but out in the wild. And yeah, this was that loose sand that we were telling you about, where you took a step and then as we're going uphill, your foot slid back a few inches, 5, 6 inches. So it was like you had to take a step and a half for every one step. But this is the trail that if you just came down the sand dunes and walked straight out, that you would have came out of. We made that left turn to parallel to do the full loop. Yeah, this is if you just came straight out to the beach. Yeah, and you come in from the beach, there's that tall grassy area, and then you come through a forested area again. And then you came back out, and there's that hill we came down at the beginning. And as we're heading back up, thank goodness we don't have to go back up that hill. Coming down was a lot of fun. Going up, glad I didn't have to. After we finished hiking, we went back to the hotel and cleaned up, took showers, and then heading out to Clawson's Wheelhouse for dinner. Had a fabulous dinner of chicken fried steak, and they poured not only a little bit of gravy, but they had lots of gravy on the mashed potatoes and the chicken fried steak. It was wonderful. This wraps up our adventures in Florence for our weekend getaway. I hope you enjoyed the sand dunes.
Into a spectacular
And if you're ever in
I'll get a
Florence,
picture I
go
did
for the
last
dune
night.
buggy
You can
ride that I
see
did last week and hike the
it was
trails.
one of those red, orange hues.
Enjoy the sunset.
That's what I'm saying. Is this could turn into that where you get that fiery red splashes off the clouds. It could get pretty spectacular over the next 20 or so minutes. Although it looks like, depending on, because the breeze is coming this way, it looks like we could be in for a little more than just a quick sprinkle.
Yeah.
Because there's rain there, back there. Just kind of depends on how long it's going to take to get here.
Yeah.
Oh, she almost gone.
See that?
I've stepped over here, I can see a low spot in the dune. And it's almost gone. And there she goes. Gone completely behind the dune.
Oh.
Well, this one has the potential to kind of fire up the sky.
Yeah, hang on a second. It started raining again.
Yeah, and I don't think this one's going to be quick. I think this one lasts a little longer.
Yeah. Well, since the rain is starting again, we'll say thank you for watching Hippie Bliss Travel. If you made it to the end, give us a like and a subscribe. And as the sun is setting, we will see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.